Alright, so if you're currently paying $5 a month for a commercial VPN service because you believe it acts like a magical military grade invisibility cloak against government surveillance, well, we probably need to sit down and have a quick, slightly uncomfortable reality check about how the internet actually kind of works. Because we've all been sold this incredibly slick marketing dream that digital privacy is just a software issue, and that if we just simply download the right encrypted messaging app, use things like a private browser, or toggle a few settings on our phones, we're just completely off the grid and untraceable. But the reality of what is happening right now in this year is a lot less like a high stakes hacker movie like The Matrix, and a lot more like a boring bureaucratic accounting trick. So, the government realized a long time ago that they absolutely do not need to hire elite hackers to break your encryption or infiltrate your devices, because they can just look at the physical copper wires and fiber optic coming directly out of your drywall. So, we've so focused on the apps we use that we completely just ignore the foundational hardware of the internet itself, specifically the internet service provider that you probably pay every single month. So your ISP, whenever you realize it or not, is actively building a highly profitable, endlessly detailed dossier of your entire digital footprint to sell on the open market, which effectively turns your monthly internet bill into a literal receipt for your own surveillance. You are paying massive telecom monopolies for the fundamental privilege of accessing the modern world, and in exchange, well, they're systematically cataloging the servers you connect to and the websites you visit, creating a whole just log of your digital existence that you can't just outsmart by using Chrome incognito mode. So to really understand how this works without getting totally bogged down in an insane amount of technical stuff, you have to look at how your internet service provider tracks you without ever actually even reading your personal messages or breaking the padlock on your browser. It's actually kind of funny. But the telecom monopolies honestly just do not care about reading the specific contents of your encrypted group chats or your banking passwords. They probably don't even want to see the memes you're sending your friends anyway. So what they really care about though is the metadata, which they extract using standard network tools like, for example, deep packet inspection. And in the data broker industry, that metadata is vastly more valuable than the raw messages themselves. Think of it I don't know, the postal service. They aren't opening your letters to read them, but they are keeping a log, of course, of the return addresses on every envelope you receive. If they see you getting mail from a cardiologist, a bankruptcy lawyer, and a casino all in the same week, they don't really need to read the letters to know exactly what's going on in your life. Every single time your router blinks its little green lights, your ISP is quietly logging the exact DNS requests you make, the specific IP addresses of the servers you are talking to, and also the exact millisecond you connected and the volume of data you downloaded. They are passively building this sort of incredibly high resolution map of your daily habits, knowing when you wake up, when you leave the house, and what kind of content you consume, all based entirely pretty much on the traffic routing through their local nodes. And because data is essentially the most valuable asset on Earth right now, your ISP is financially incentivized to store this massive metadata dossier for years, warehousing your digital life on corporate servers just waiting to be packaged, monetized, and sold to the highest bidder. Now, here's where it gets genuinely ironic. It involves a legal loophole the federal government is actively using right now to access all of that ISP data without ever having to step in front of a judge to ask for a legal warrant. So, normally, if the feds want to physically search your house or your car, well, we have the Fourth Amendment, and it legally requires them to go to a court, present actual evidence, and prove probable cause to a judge to get a warrant. But when it comes to your digital life, the government found this massive, totally legal workaround known in the intelligence community as the data broker loophole. So because tech-com monopolies and tech companies legally log your data and funnel it to a multi-billion-dollar secondary market of third-party data brokers, the government realized that they don't just actually need to bother with the judicial system at all. They can just take, tax dollars and just use it to buy a digital dossier directly from the open market. Like, they are basically online shopping for your internet history, app telemetry, and precise location data, tossing it into a virtual cart like they're browsing like Amazon or something. And this is not some sort of insane conspiracy theory. Like, it is actively being like debated in like Congress right now in early 2026, where lawmakers across the political spectrum are trying to pass the Bipartisan Government Surveillance Reform Act, just to stop agencies like the FBI and the NSA from commercially like purchasing American citizens' data without a warrant. Like, it is a widely efficient bureaucratic workaround that completely bypasses the judicial oversight system, legally transforming your fundamental constitutional right to privacy into, I don't know, a premium commercial commodity that can just be bought and sold behind closed doors. Like, you're essentially paying taxes to fund the government agencies that are commercially purchasing like the surveillance logs generated by the internet connection you also pay for every single month, which is quite literally like the most advanced subscription trap ever invented. So you might be sitting there watching this video wondering how this is even remotely legal in the first place. And the entire justification traces back to a slightly bizarre legal concept called the third-party doctrine, which is currently the subject of a massive debate at the highest levels of the judicial system. So the government's entire defense for this sort of warrantless surveillance relies on this doctrine, which essentially states that the exact second you voluntarily give your information to a third party, you legally and instantly forfeit your reasonable expectation of privacy under the Fourth Amendment. So when you rapidly scroll to the bottom of like a completely unreadable 50-page long terms of conditions agreement and just click I agree, just so that you can, I don't know, turn on your apartment's Wi-Fi or download like a new app, the legal system views that as you voluntarily and enthusiastically consenting to hand over your data. Like, this isn't some like abstract legal theory, like it's nothing crazy. Like, literally right now in April of this year, Supreme Court is actually dealing with a landmark privacy case called United States versus Chartier. Sorry if I butchered that pronunciation. But basically, this case deals directly with geofence warrants, location history, and the incredibly relevant question of whenever tech monopolies endlessly storing your data equates to you voluntarily surrendering your constitutional rights just by participating in modern society. Gov's argument in open court is just basically that because you technically clicked agree on a digital contract you absolutely had to sign just to function in the real world, the data your ISP and tech providers generate is no longer your private property, but a corporate business record. So they are legally framing your absolute necessity for an internet connection as a voluntary waiver of your rights, allowing a corporate entity to functionally act as a highly profitable, unregulated data farm for like the law, for example. So when we look at the bigger picture here, we aren't dealing with some sort of scenario where shadow hackers are like breaking into your devices to steal your identity. Like, we are just dealing with a very cold, calculated, bureaucratic system that has successfully merged corporate profit with also interests of surveillance. Like, the internet that you are casually scrolling through right now is essentially just like a highly audited, like heavily monetized grid where every digital move is logged from the exact moment you plug your router into the wall. When you combine the tracking of deep packet inspection, the limitless storage of telecom metadata, the blatant financial exploitation of the data broker loophole, and the rather like absurd legal logic of the third party doctrine, you realize that the system, it is like actually functioning exactly as it was designed to. Like, the good news is that the window to push back against this reality is it's still open, and there are legislative efforts out there to, plug this loophole, but you don't know what could happen in the future. So yeah, this is honestly a really interesting topic, and I will say use a private DNS. So yeah, I'll see you next time, and drop a comment if you so choose to.